Hey, everybody. Ty Sweet and Scott Goyette are here to say hello to you guys and talk a little bit about politics. What's wrong with us? Why would we do that? We might as well just do religion next week, right?
Right.
Um, so we wanted to come talk to you guys about it and, maybe smile a little bit, not make light of a real serious situation, but kind of just start to dial back on the energy that gets thrown around with serious discussions. And just to preface this whole, talk that we're going to have today, I want you guys to think about one thing. For years, we were told to do what? Never talk about politics or religion. Just don't. And that was just kind of a rule. And I think what happened is we lost the ability to communicate within those discussions because not talking just made things worse and amplified things. And then we allowed outside influences to distort our thinking. We stopped thinking critically. And now here we are with this very big chasm, this very big divide. And the world doesn't have to be that way. And in this discussion, I want to talk about one very specific thing. Those conversations, as we start to have those, will not be easy. Think of this, okay? If you gain 200 pounds, you say, today I want to lose 200 pounds. Is tomorrow going to be the day you lose the 200 pounds? No, no, no. It came on slowly. It's going to go off slowly. So, what we're going to talk about today is what are the little tiny things that I can do in this present moment to start those discussions without them becoming hugely inflammatory and just putting people even deeper into their belief systems, whether right or wrong, and having zero compromise and zero understanding or empathy for the other. Sound fair, Ty?
Sounds very fair.
Cool. Your face froze, but I can hear you. I know you're out there. So the first thing I want to just kind of go through is Ty and I had a great conversation the other day. And what we were talking about was we hear this conversation all the time. I'm going to vote for the lesser of evils. And the vote for the lesser of the evils is, again, our perspective of a few points of things that really matter to us. So if I'm somebody who says, it's my religion, it's the economy, there might be a lesser of evil. If I'm somebody who says, I can't believe this person or this party doesn't even believe in taking care of the least amongst us, or they don't care about healthcare, who would possibly get rid of Social Security? We pick a few things, we hold on to it, and then we try to crucify the other side. So, Ty, question for you. All right. Do you think it's a good idea to vote for the lesser of evils? And in doing that, what would be the result if we all do that?
Um, for me, I would say it is not good to vote for the lesser of evils. I would say it is good to do the good, to
Okay.
do what what you can do, what I can do as a person, as someone who has power. As we
Okay.
the people, we have power. So if we all collectively work together, come to common ground, and make something happen, that is good. That is our vote. That is what we do. Like our dollar is our vote as well, depending on what we buy. Like say, if it's certain kind of food, if it's certain kind of things that we don't want within the uh, like if there's like too many chemicals or something, like why buy a product without all those chemicals? You're just voting for that product. So if there's something we could do or abstain from doing that goes to that greater good, then that is something that we can do as far as um, voting for the good rather than any lesser evil.
I get it. And then talking about the big picture of presidency and, elections that are, here in our state and federal government, if we don't vote for one and the other one gets in, does that in any way put us for blame if something horrific happens or some big shift happens or something that really hurts the greater good of the populace? In other words, we've got one group who's saying, I can't believe that you would vote for the other person. And we've got this group saying, you've got to be kidding me. Like there's no way. And neither one is looking at the big picture, in my opinion, or maybe one side, in my opinion, slightly more than the other, but barely. And I think so. When you said vote for the lesser of evils, at first I was thinking about that, and I'll admit, years back. I started to get into the Libertarian Party and really get excited about what that might represent. And then I looked at people like Ron Paul and I had an interest in it. But then I saw a distortion in that party, and they came from their traditional, from the values I saw they had originally seemed to get distorted. So even third party for me doesn't fully make sense. And then again, people will say, wait a minute, if you don't pick one side or the other, we're going to be in a very difficult place if a certain side gets elected. So when people are thinking, and this is what I told you I was thinking about for a while, when people are thinking, I don't want to vote for the lesser of evils. Now, my coaching self, and I know for you, your religious self, I don't want to take my energy and attach and say, hey, I'm voting for the lesser of evil, because what you focus on becomes the reality. So if I focus on lesser evil, I say evil is okay in a diluted form. So here's what I would ask you to think about. And I've been trying to think about this too. Are we not voting for the person? Are we voting for the initial situation outcome to create a better world that we believe will be that pathway? So in other words, if I vote right now, my vote will be for peace, for love, for everything we want to see. And immediately it's not perfect, but you said everything else. So we make that vote, and then we immediately go and we start becoming the change ourselves, so that we're not stuck in a situation where we feel like we're forced to vote for lesser of evils. Like, what can that look like? How can we start to do that in a way that reduces divide? Because division's huge among us. In fact, I want to keep talking about it. I do want to share one thing before you answer, or before you respond. Is, so when we put this out, to tell people we're going to be talking about politics, there were 2 or 3 posts that came in response to this that I found very interesting. And one person said some stuff and said, we need to have a more homogenous society. We need to, get back to a place where we need to be. And if you don't believe that, don't talk to me anymore. I was like, wow, like, listen to the tunnel they went down. Another person said, I can't believe that somebody like you would support fascism. And I'm like, where did you get that out of me saying we're doing this? So my point is, people are all so ready to respond, assuming that if your discussion says I'm not screaming at somebody, then it's already on one side. And it could be 2 different sides. Like, there are people from both sides of the aisle thinking that I'm going to say the wrong thing and that I'm somehow at fault before I've even spoken yet. What has brought us to that? What do we need to do to not attach to the lesser of evils, but attach to a vision of what this world can and could look like? And what do we do to take action ourselves to make that happen, especially right now?
Especially right now, just being able to listen to each other. That is so key. I mean, with any relationship, communication is huge. And the biggest thing that we can do within communication is to listen to one another. And if we are listening, and not only just listening, but within that listening, intentionally seeking to understand and seeking to truly know exactly where this person is coming from, what experiences lead them to think the way that they think, why they feel a certain way about something, rather than just listen to see how you're going to posit your stance and say that someone's wrong. Like, that's not the purpose of communication, right? So being able to listen to one another and see what exactly the problem or the issue is, and not only to stop at the problem. That's another thing that I see that's happening. People are so focused on the problem, the solution never really comes about. What can we do? Like, how can we work together? How can we, ask those questions like that, where there can be some kind of um, resolution, where there could be some kind of um, change that could be created, that can be done as people, as humanity, rather than a party or a group of people with a certain type of beliefs. Like it's all pretty much division, like church basically. Like, a lot of people believe, or just like even within different religions, um, they say don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion.
Yep.
But the reason why most people can't talk about it is because we don't talk about it. Like, it has to be a practice. And when people can practice listening to one another and can practice speaking to each other with um, compassion, love, care, and know that we are in this together to create solutions, then that's
Mhm.
when we can make those changes on how we can unify rather than be divided based on political agenda.
Yeah. It's interesting because what I've seen is people are afraid, and when we have this conversation all the time, and the analogy I use the river and the rocks, but people are very afraid to be in the river right now. The river is existence, the river is life, the river is where source creator God exists and where we all exist. We're getting on rocks, and the minute you get on a rock, because the river shifted and you get on a rock and you're no longer in the river, you've lost the ability to be in flow. And then you start to create an identity around the rock when your reality is divine spirituality. You are the river. And the minute you sit on that rock and start saying, I am right and you are wrong, you've lost understanding because you created separation. So when I sit and I listen to very intelligent people, and I mean very intelligent people, like egoically very intelligent, and I would actually offer very heart smart people who just happen to be sitting on a rock in this present moment. And I'm hoping some of the people are listening, because I'm getting people who, there's been multiple people saying stuff like, you be careful what you're saying, whatever. Like, there's nothing to be careful of. Like, this should be an open conversation where, I mean, here's the reality. It's right behind me. Go love now. Okay. So it's all
Mm-hmm.
about love over fear. Okay. It doesn't mean that fear is not a potentially good thing, because it can be a catalyst to move us closer to love. But right now, there's a massive majority of people on this planet who are being heavily influenced by fear and forgetting the river, which is love. So when I'm on the rock, okay, and I start to identify with the rock and separation, then getting into that river gets scarier and scarier and scarier, because I'm like, but I want everything the way it is now or the way it was yesterday. Now listen to this. Life moves constantly. It's constantly moving. So my
Mm-hmm.
grandfather passed away a few years back. My grandmother, other family members will be passing away at some point. They are no longer here physically, but in the present moment, their love stays with me. So it's always in the present, but the movement is still going. I can't go back and pull something from yesterday. So when we start doing that and creating this illusion of somebody saying we should have a homogenous nation, what does that even mean? Does that mean we all get kicked out and we go back to the Native Americans? Does that mean once we butcher the Native Americans, the first group is that, like, it doesn't even make sense. And I'm not saying that in a way to attack somebody if that's where your thinking's at. I would ask you to start thinking about it. Like, here's the reality. Are there certain people or groups that might feel scary to us? And in some cases, maybe doing things that are criminal or whatever? Certainly. So what do we do? Do we just throw them away? Or do we put more love on them so that we can recall our truth of one river? That's all I'm asking you guys to start figuring out how to do. And like the 200 pounds that's been gained, it's got to be 1 pound at a time. So when I look to my left and I'm like, but you know how they are, I want you to think about this. And Ty, I think you saw this interview with Orl Amin, good buddy of mine, also a coach. He talked about the minute that you start to judge, okay, we judge. We look and go, that person reminds me of blank, or that person might be like this, or we're judging just for some semblance of understanding my present moment in relation to that person. Once we create an ism, racism, sexism, whatever ism it is, now we start to classify, and then that judgment starts to go, well, that's how they are. Okay. And then
Mm-hmm.
once we decide that's how they are, now we decide I don't want them here. It goes to bigotry. And now we're like, screw them, bad people. And then when we dehumanize, that's when we're lost. So there's a long road from prejudice, prejudging, to an ism, to bigotry, to an actual dehumanization. We're getting there with a lot of people where I see the bigotry and the dehumanization. So that's what I'm trying to ask you guys to do is let's start backtracking again. I'm not saying get on a rock and backtrack. It's actually forward. It's moving forward, but it's moving forward in the sense that we don't want to continue that way. We want to come back into the river and go down this little channel of the river. But really think about that. If I can look at somebody, and of course I'm going to do the quick judgment because I'm like, oh, they look like, yeah, but I've never met them. So, and then I back out of the judgment and I start to communicate and meet them. But if right now you were to meet somebody and they have a Trump flag on their yard, or they have a Harris flag or whatever the thing is, and you instantly go, oh God. I mean, let's be honest. How many of us kind of do a little bit of that? We're all human. We do a little bit of that. What do you have to do? You have to back up to the no judgment, right? Have a communication with them, discuss. I've got some very, very good friends with totally opposite political beliefs. And guess what I do? I call them and check in with them. How are you doing? How's everything going? How are you feeling? What are you putting out there to spread more positivity? And I'm sure when they see the person they don't like, they're like, but he's like Scott. And I'm like, Scott. And it's confusing. So what can we do to invite people to back up from the isms, from the potential bigotry, from the potential dehumanization, to come back and try to manage as best we can our own triggers in those conversations while offering each other grace and start that communication to lose that 200 pounds, 1 pound at a time? What can we do there?
That's powerful. That question of what can we do to create more positivity in the world? To wake up every day and ask yourself that. What can I do to create more positivity in the world? What can I do? Like it starts individually first.
Yeah.
So starting there, just starting with self and seeing what I can do to create more positivity in the world. And then doing that, actually not just asking the question, but actually seeing what it is, seeking it out, doing it, then it ends up creating that ripple effect. We're in this river, and once we put out that one speck of positivity, then that expands. What you focus on expands, right? So that ends up going out the way that we're speaking to people, the way that we're listening to people, the way that we are doing positive things. That has a powerful effect, even if it seems minute and it seems small. As far as that 200 pounds that has been accumulated, all of the hate, all of the bigotry, all of the negativity that's been accumulated over time, that would need to be, it takes work to lose that weight. It takes a change. It takes a change from focusing on the differences to focusing on the similarities. What is it that we both want? What is it that we agree on? Seeing where we agree is powerful, and looking for that and focusing on, okay, how can we make a positive change in the world? How can we do that rather than putting that responsibility or looking for a savior or someone, a politician, whatever, or some group to do that? What can we do? What can I do? And that's where that expands. If it goes from what do I do to what can we do, and then actually doing it, taking that mind power, that brain power, that collective mind to make that happen.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because like when you say it out loud and we don't go outside into the world outside, we're in our little bubbles. It sounds so obvious, and then bam, you get a punch to the gut. Bam, you get an elbow to the face. And very quickly, you go back into the patterns. And then you say, I knew it. I knew it. I like that podcast and everything, but that's kind of BS. Like, that's not the way the world works. That's some, total like la la land trash. And I get it. I listen, the 20-year-old version of me would have been like, no, it's just the way the world is. It's you just got to fight. If you're not a warrior, you're not going to get anywhere. No one's going to give you anything. And I still get that. No one's going to give you. Well, I'm not chasing a savior, but it starts with us. It connects to we, and it just amplifies. And I think that's a very simple reality that we've all seen in little micro groups. But I feel like we stop it at a certain point. So we do great things, and it makes our family better, and then we halt right there. Or we do great things and we make Austin better and say, Austin's a great city, but Texas, oh. And instead of just expanding that and continuing the expansion, we do a halt. And that's where I think a lot of these isms come from. Because what we do is, you've heard me say this a million times, if self is me, then the whole world comes from right here. It's my perspective on the world. Oh, they did this to me. They did that. Oh, I'll overcome them. Oh, I'll beat them. And it's me versus them. What if it's just my family? Now I'm looking from my family forward. Okay, it's them versus us, them versus us. What if it's everyone in Austin? What's if it's everyone in Texas? What if it's the whole point is we've got to stop limiting self to any small group. And we've got to say it's all that is seen and unseen. Because here's the reality. Let's say that we start hating each other so much that we just destroy each other. Okay, we're going to start impacting nature. Granted, nature would probably do better without us as far as the earth. But we can be symbiotic with it. We can be the river. We can be the flow. We can dance in nature, with nature, recognizing that we are nature. But that division that we've created has almost made us a cancer rather than some beautiful part that's contributing to nature and this world. And so,
Right.
I would ask people, instead of making fun of words like woke or awakened, whatever word you don't like, use a different word. But what I'm asking you to do is to explore what waking up could look like, to what Ty said. Start with I every day. I don't want to use Michael Jackson because somebody's going to come say something about him, but the man in the mirror, look at the man in the mirror, look at the woman in the mirror, and fall in love with that individual and their ability and their divinity and their brilliance that they have, that they could share here on this planet, and go out and share it, and then connect with like frequencied individuals who are ready to share it too, create the we. And that we is going to expand tenfold. And if that we happens to be in a church, don't let it end there. Don't say it's the church verse. No, no, no. That church was a starting point. Let it go to the community. Let it go to the state. Let it go to the country. Let it go to the world. We limit it because we said it's our people. Like, I don't care if you follow whatever the hell Go Love Now says. I'm just sharing some principles that are universal to many religions, but it doesn't matter. This is a catalyst. It's not a be all end all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything to me, which some people would be like, why do you talk about it? Because it's a platform and principles to get people to go love each and every one of us. Like, if this gets like lost in the shuffle, nobody ever says it again, cool, I don't care. All it is a seed plant or a catalyst for us to wake up, to love one another, to love ourselves, and use fear as a springboard, but not something to attach to. Does that make sense, Ty? Because I know that a lot of us hit a certain point where we just say, this is self, and we stop, and then the divide starts there. So even though our intentions were really good, going we froze the we at a certain point. What do we get? Yeah. How do we help people get past that we to extend to each and all of us?
Yeah, that's what we got to see as far as we, each and all of us, recognizing that we have to work together, that we are, as we go back to the founding fathers saying, we the people, we are the people. If we are acting as the people, if we are acting as those who are intelligent in mind and can communicate and can work together for the common good, then that's what we have to do. But that practice has not been going on. The practice has been war. The practice has been hate. The practice has been division. The practice has been politics. The practice has been separatism. and having that different like denominations, for example, it's all separatism rather than seeing how we could come together. Now, yes, of course, people are going to be um, focused on different things in life that may matter to them more because they're in different places, they're from different places, different things happen differently within their areas. So people are going to have different minds and lines of thinking when it comes to certain things and certain subjects. However, that common ground, that is where it has not been focused upon. And when we focus upon that common ground, and when we focus on what is it that we do agree on, the agreements, that is the foundation for it, as how we can make that change. Yeah, I mean, let's go back to it. Those lyrics. I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. That is where it takes place right there. We have to change. And if that change does not take place, and we're so stuck on staying how we were, and keeping that the way that we are, and we never change, then that's when things go wrong. We have to make that change. No message would have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
it all goes back to exactly what I was just saying earlier. You got to look at yourself in the mirror, and you got to make a change within yourself. Because if you're not changing yourself, and you're just expecting someone else to make a change in the world, then are we really doing what we're supposed to do? What we should do as people, the powerful people, like we have so much power that we don't even realize it, and we throw it away to someone expecting for them to do it, or some group expecting for them to do it, when we have the power ourselves to make the change in the world that we want to see. And when we
Study.
recognize that, then I mean, if you want to look at life like a game, it's instead of game over, it's game on. Right
Amen.
now, yeah, it's you know, that's where that huge change can happen. If imagine if everybody actually realized that and actually began to make that change, how the
Yeah.
world would become, how much unification would happen, how much recognizing, okay, man, this is like has not been conducive to our well-being, to our communities, to our cities, to our countries, for everybody to be in such a mindset of hate towards one another because of how we think upon a political party.
Exactly. But
So,
those are alignments. We're
right.
aligning with intention to make that part of our identity and limiting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other great song. There's been a few good ones that are attempts at getting us to wake up, but we are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. I mean, that's the extension of we. And that giving is giving to self and others. Like fuel yourself enough so that you can take your brilliance and share it with others. And I think that by design, we're all doing, and when I say all, slight generalization, but collectively, we're all keeping our tanks empty, and we're blaming, and then we're asking somebody else to save us, save us, save us. And the reason our tanks are so empty is because we're not doing what we're truly put here to do. We're truly put here to connect. You look at the book about the blue zones, and one of the biggest pieces of blue zones is certain areas in the world, include Costa Rica, Okinawa, Denmark, Sardinia. There's a few places that it's one in like California, but there are areas where people live to be over 100, and they talk about
Mm-hmm.
what the commonalities are. And the big unsung hero there is their ability to connect. So the people are still like going into town, sitting down, having breakfast with a friend every morning, maybe playing backgammon. At night, they sit and have one glass of wine and just laugh about the day. I mean, really listen to that. So the fuel, and think about if you're a river, the water droplets running off of one another. You're not independent. You're not a droplet. You are the river. And we've created such a separated nature that we've just forgotten with a river. And I think it's literally that simple. You said a beautiful word that I want to reference back, and it's the perfect word to discuss right now is practice. You said we're in a practice of war, we're in a practice of negativity, we're in a practice of divide. So listen to that, okay? So we have this thing, and this is the same thing as the 200 pounds. In our practices, we can nibble away at that 200 pounds of hate, of bigotry, of disconnect, of divide. And it's going to take time. And then once that practice becomes our norm, then it just seems to melt away so quick, because in every present moment, as time goes by, we're not hyper focused on the 200 pounds. We're hyper focused on that change and that beauty, and the world is shifting, and there's all these good things happening. And when we say, and I know we've all heard this, and I'd like to end in this discussion right here, because I think it's a perfect place to end. How many of us just say it's just the way it is? It's part of the human condition. I mean, I've listened to that in Buddhism and certain spiritual mindsets, that they're like, the human condition and samsara, we're in a world of suffering. Yeah, I don't disagree with, to date, this is a world of suffering. I do not disagree with that. And we look at laws of the universe and polarities, and that we're here in a place where you have freedom to choose. You could choose darkness and you could choose light. But I also believe this, in this thing that we currently call the human condition, I do believe that the darkness is showing up really big right now. Our shadows are showing up big, and what our responsibility, I would think, to do, and this is how we remove that 200-pound behemoth, is we shine light on it. We witness it. We know it's a part of who we are and who we can be. And then we choose to lean into what we are in the light. And I think that that's what's happening right now. And I think that all we can see is the darkness, because we're illuminating the darkness. So we see there's more wars, there's genocide, people ridiculous, people horrible, what's wrong in the world. The reason we're seeing what's wrong with the world is because we're going to start choosing what's right in the world. And so in this present moment, recognize the I. What can I do to illuminate? And even honesty in me, like, hey, I'm not a perfect person. I make a ton of mistakes. What do you want to hear them all? I mean, I'm willing. You know me. I'll say anything. I mean, you can go listen to podcasts and go, man, you're a mess. No, I'm an honest, transparent, vulnerable human being who makes a lot of mistakes. And in those, guess what I do? I learn as best I can. And if you look at me from 15 to 20 to 25 to 30, you can see a better version of myself always, taking a little bit away from that 200 pounds. So at the end, I'm free of that weight on my deathbed, passing down a better version of this world from self. So that's what I'd ask you guys to start thinking about. I mean, I have friends who said we need to get rid of the Department of Education because it's a mess, and we need to overhaul the education system. The second part of that I agree with. We need to overhaul the education system. So why don't we start from there and say, what would it look like if we got rid of the Department of Education? And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. What I'm saying is we always lead with something that's very frictional, instead of saying, how can we overhaul the education system so it's equitable and super beneficial for all? There, I'll have a conversation all day with you. But that's not how conversations are led. Or another friend who goes, you got to be an idiot if you don't think we should have guns. This country would be a mess without guns. What about this? Is there a value for guns? Let's discuss. I'll talk about that all day long. But when you lead with an attack versus a discussion, and then somebody says, well, what about this? What if our electricity and power all went down and we live in a place with a bunch of coyotes and they came in and were attacking us? Is a gun a good idea? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it's a good idea there. So we start figuring out what's a reasonable balance between everyone running around thinking they're Rambo versus having guns. There's always a balance.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
There always is. I mean, exactly. Something that I thought was profound that you said was that people are empty. And another way to look at it is that we're also full of a lot of the stuff that we shouldn't be full of. And
we're
that is on
fuel of the
yes,
divine.
empty of the
shit
right.
Of the matrix. Thank you.
Right. So we've all of that stuff, all that good stuff that we've come onto this earth with as children, as babies, like we didn't have that. Like we had love, we had peace, we had we smile at each other.
Curiosity. We're just kids.
Exactly. And all of that was poured out. It was poured out on purpose. So we were empty of that. And what was made full was all of that nonsense that we're dealing with today. The stuff that we're seeing on the TV, the stuff we're seeing through the news, the stuff that we're hearing from the politicians say, all of that is being poured in on purpose. I used to work in news, and I recognized what happened. I called in one day. I thought something was newsworthy. I was like, hey, y'all should check this out. There's like, is anybody hurt? No. Anybody die? No. We don't have a story.
It's unreal.
And that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, okay, I see what the agenda really is. The fear, the hurt, all of the things that we really shouldn't have filled up in our mind. The things that we hate, the things that that bring more fear, the things that are traumatic, all of those triggers, that's what's been filled up. And once we empty that out of our minds and we refill our minds back with love, with common ground, with peace, with how we can work together, asking those questions with positive, good communication, rather than just spouting out whatever comes to your mind. Because right now, by default, it's just negativity. If we can really work on chiseling away at all that negativity and getting back to that positivity that's within us, then that is where we can end up making that change again. But it takes work, a lot of work.
I'm going to put out a final thought, if you'll allow me, Ty, and then I'd like to hear your final thoughts. But what I'd love to invite people to do is I would love to invite people to really start to embrace a practice of the world you want to see. And while doing that is really figure out a world you want to see and be honest with yourself, because here's what's potentially going to happen. You shift and you say, I want a world without divide and without love. And then because you've got a 200-pound weight loss, metaphorically, that you're about to step into with your new practices, on day 3, you're going to go, I'm tired. It doesn't feel good. Oh my God, he's such an idiot. And then you're going to fall right back into it. So we know for a fact that it's 21 days to create a new habit. It's 90 days to create a lifestyle shift. So you're going to have to give yourself roughly 3 months to really feel comfortable with this practice so that it starts to be embodied. So that's a long time. Like imagine if you said you're going to stop eating sugar for 90 days. That's going to be probably 90 days of living hell if you're somebody who eats sugar in reality. But what is the potential outcome? So if we're sitting here right now and I say, you know what, I want to be the change, or we are the world, we are the children. So together, collectively, we're supposed to make a better world. I can't say you do it and I'm not doing it because now I'm just a giant hypocrite. So if you are willing to make a shift, and here's how you need to do it. 1, you need to have a trajectory of what you want the world to look like. So if you say you want to see no divide, if you say you want to see love, I don't care if you think it's a fantasy you can't impact. I don't care. I want you to create a trajectory that you're going to become that. It's not about the world becoming it. It's you becoming it because that's what you want. And then as you become it, like frequency people will show up to help you find that critical mass to make that come into fruition. I promise you, this is how the change is going to be made. So I'm asking you to, 1, visualize the world you want to live in. I want it to be a fantasy. I want it to be a dream world because we can create heaven here on earth, but we have not practiced that ever. So we use words like the human condition. We use words like, or phrase like, it is what it is, or war is just a part of humanity since the beginning of time. It has been. No arguments. New story starts now. I want your trajectory, create a practice plan, give it 90 days, and be resilient in your practice. Ty, what do you got, brother?
That is on point right there. As it was stated, you are the change. You are the one. I mean, if you want to look at it as if we're in a matrix
Neo,
and all this, yes, you are the one. And when you see yourself as that, you'll begin to truly make that change. But once you believe it, you will begin to make a ton of change. But that's where it's got to come to. You got to believe that. And once you believe it, you go past believing it, then you'll know it. And once you know it, oh man, this world will be such a better place, even more than you or any one of us could even imagine, because of what you know you can do with the power that you have as a person. We are the people. You are the people. And we make the change. You make the change. It starts with you.
Okay, ready? This is what we're going to tell you. It is that simple, but it is not easy. No one's saying that the next 90 days of you shifting your mindset, your heart set, and your actions and having a very specific vision of what you want the world to look like, that 90 days, and I don't want to say it's going to be hell, because that's actually a poor terminology, because now I'm actually creating the hell. It's going to be with obstacle. It's going to be reprogramming, and it's going to be tough. But gosh, it's going to be worth it. Anything that we do that's worthwhile comes with some friction, and it comes with some difficulty. But that's the work, the inner work. I can't tell you enough. There's no such thing as spiritual bypassing. So you want to get from here to a different point in your journey. There's no shortcut ever, because the requirement of the build is you've got to do the build. So when you hear somebody, some coach telling you do this and it'll be quicker, I mean, like, Ty, you know what I coach on? I'm telling you just the opposite. I'm literally giving you mirrors to look at yourself more closely, so that when you wake up every day, you go, I need to do this. You create a framework on how to build yourself better. And it's an ongoing journey. You're getting back into the river. You're recognizing the flow. You're flowing down into the ocean of oneness. And it's simple, but not easy to do. And you have our blessings and the universe's blessings in doing this. And I can promise you, once you get through that 90 days of shifting yourself to connect deep with a deeper we, magic happens. And guess where that magic's coming from? It's coming from you the whole time. You just forgot it was in there. So again, we talked a little bit about politics, but I think the biggest thing is, I would say, it's up to you, but I would say go out and vote. But I wouldn't vote for the person. I wouldn't vote for the lesser evils. I would vote for your vision and what's in the quickest alignment to your vision based on your experience, and then make the change in you. Because if we're all doing that simultaneously, we're going to be able to change the world. And we've let ourselves drift very far from where we need to be. But I think that's part of the awakening process for all of us. So yes. Love you guys. Ty, it was a beautiful conversation like always with you. Hopefully people get some benefit from this. If you guys want to visit us, Ty's doing some rework and organizing our Go Love Now YouTube page. You can check that out. And we've got the Go Love Now page on Facebook. Feel free to join up on that. And if you're interested in being in a tighter knit Go Love Now group, would love to have you in that. Just message me or go to the group, and I'll make sure I get you invited in. You guys have a beautiful rest of your Monday. It's actually early voting day here in Austin. It was not intentional. That just happened to be that. So here we go. So go vote your heart, and vote with your dollars, and vote with your voice and your mind, and do all those things. Love you guys. You guys have a beautiful rest